Welcome to another episode of Growth Leaders by Shot. Today we're joined by Chris, a visionary leader and the driving force behind Johnson & Johnson's U.S. state affairs and global civil justice initiatives. Chris's leadership journey is nothing short of inspiring. He's known for his ability to turn challenges into opportunities and for his deep commitment to fostering diverse talent. With a track record of making real impact in both corporate and public sectors, Chris brings a wealth of knowledge on what it takes to lead in today's complex world. Get ready for a conversation that's sure to leave you inspired and equipped with actionable leadership strategies. So, most welcome, Chris. Great to have
Hi,
you here.
Peter. Thank you very much. Wonderful to be with you today.
It is. So, we have a few things here coming up, and I'm going to go into clearly the leadership side. And I thought that's where we're going to head off because you have so much experience, not only in the role of Johnson & Johnson, but you have the experience also from where you've been working on government affairs. But starting off, what does sport mean for you into the world of leadership, and why is that important?
Well, thank you, Peter. What I would say, the world of sport for me it's a great opportunity to challenge yourself, to set goals for yourself, and develop a plan, and stay committed to that plan, ultimately leading to execution and achieving your goals. And, finding times when you don't want to get up, you don't want to go work out, you don't want to push yourself. And so much of that experience of sport is applicable to leadership. It's applicable to your day-to-day responsibilities at work, right? And so I find a lot of parallels between sport and work.
Is there any specific sports you love more than others?
Well, I love sport just in general, whether I'm watching it or whether I'm engaged in it. I really enjoy American football. It's that season here in the United States where college athletics, college American football is starting, and that's a lot of excitement. But on a more personal level, for me, sport that I really, really enjoy are endurance sports, whether that's running or cycling, or a combination of sport, adventure racing, or triathlon. I really enjoy those sports that require me to test myself emotionally as well as physically, right? And I've done my fair share of ultra races, ultra running. I've done my fair share of adventure races, whether they're 12 hours or multi-day races, or Ironman as well. And just really enjoy that kind of sport.
So let's jump. We know that because that is great for, as you say, mindset is great for, coming into your thinking, solving problems, and of course, feeling well. When you look at talent, we can look at, I'm certain there's quite a few jobs where you have had to hire people internally or externally. What are you looking for when you're putting someone in any position which you could describe generally? What are you looking for in the character of that person? Man or woman or any whatever?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. Inevitably, right? There's sort of the underlying skill sets, capabilities, competencies that are consistent with the day-to-day job responsibilities, right? So does someone have the subject matter expertise? Does somebody bring the professional experience that's relevant to the responsibilities of the job? But I think what you're really asking is, what are some of those intangibles, right? What are those qualities or characteristics that can help separate candidates and separate talent from individuals that maybe have some of the same professional experiences, some of those same skill sets, competencies, that are consistent with the day-to-day job responsibilities. And some of the things that I think are important are adaptability, right? The ability to problem solve, to face challenges where you don't know the answer, right? But you have the resilience to learn, to adapt, to make adjustments, to uncover and find and create solutions, right? These are skills and qualities that people you can have sort of some of the fundamentals, but inevitably there are going to be curveballs, there are going to be challenges that you face, and so your ability to keep calm, your ability to be solution oriented, to craft strategies and then execute on those strategies that require you to think under pressure and ultimately be able to execute. So resilience, adaptability, ability to think on your feet, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? Being willing to learn and be outside of those things that you are used to, right? These are undoubtedly.
And how do you identify those things? Well, what are your key? I mean, I guess there's a gut feeling by experience here, but do you use specific tools or use a lot of references, or how do you approach that question with knowing how a person actually is if you haven't been working with him or her?
Yeah, I mean, I like to ask the question, give me an example of a time when you were put in a situation where you were expected to deliver on something that you haven't ever had responsibility for delivering before, right? Give me an example of a time when you didn't feel like you had the underlying experience, but yet somebody saw something in you and they gave you a responsibility and now are expecting you to deliver. Tell me or talk to me about how you went about delivering and reaching those goals that were ultimately assigned to you, right? When you yourself didn't feel like you had those skill sets that were necessary, right? So I like to have people tell their story, and more often than not, right? And these aren't things that people necessarily come to an interview with, right? So I think it's our job as people managers and people leaders and people who are looking to uncover talent to draw out of them. All of that is part of the talent development journey, and it starts with in that very first interview of trying to uncover from the candidates what some of those qualities and characteristics that they might not necessarily be coming to the table with as a leading quality or characteristic.
And then when you grow as a leader, you also will see and understand that most of the answers if you have a large organization, you'll find them in the people, the bits and pieces to put things together over time, even though you may not really know what direction you're going initially, but talking around and be a good listener really helps you solving those problems and putting that direction into place.
So true. I see it with our talent every day. And what I would say is it always is in constant motion, right?
Mm.
Change and evolution in organizations is necessary, and it's always happening, right? And so we always need to be looking for how do we deploy our talent in ways that are needed for our organization, our company to continue to succeed. And so, um, helping our talent to use their skills to grow in new ways, to advance their capabilities, regularly challenging them with new or additional responsibilities, right? Where they can build on their existing experience, but that they can go out and try new things, do new things, take new approaches, be faced with different problems, and test themselves to come up with new solutions. We are, as a leadership team, we're always looking at that and assessing, where is the business headed, where's the external environment headed, and how can we deploy our talent in a way that solves for those challenges, new talent, new qualities, capabilities that we need to bring in, right? So it's always in motion. We're always growing. We're always learning. That's a big part of it. Having that learning mindset, right? Being willing to take risks, being willing to have people not always succeed, right? But now they've learned from that experience and take it to the next
And
challenge.
what you're pointing out here also as a leader is actually having the trust and belief, giving them the challenges, which they may not have tried out, but actually have belief you can solve it. And maybe also have this rather mentoring to them. So I think as a leader, it's a super important thing because some guys and girls are growing so fast when they get that opportunity.
I totally agree. It makes me also think too about leaders themselves, right? And you just sort of touched on it is, leaders being willing to take those risks. Sometimes leaders aren't willing to do that, right? And the leaders aren't necessarily always willing to do that in their people because they themselves aren't willing to do it with themselves. And, if I just look back on some of my experiences, sometimes, I think about it in the context of, I wish there were times when I believed in myself as much as the leaders who were giving me responsibility believed in me. Right. And, I think that's something that's important for people who are leaders,
Mm.
put in leadership roles, is, believe in yourself, because the people who've put you in those leadership response, they see it in you, they believe in you, they want to see you succeed. When you're successful, they're successful. And right, I think it's so important as leaders that we believe in ourselves as much
But
as
you're
others.
also touching on another thing here is that you have a very humble attitude. That also makes people appreciate what you do, give you chances. Uh, so that there's, I guess, that's something you have, but you also which you can work on, both as a leader. Because normally, what I see many times, at least, the higher you get up, you normally have very humble people who has been very successful. They care about other people. Maybe not everywhere, but at least that's my experience. And I think that is a very important piece if you want to be a leader. Be humble to yourself and to other people. I don't know what if you have same or similar thinking about that.
Gosh, I do, Peter. I mean, it's who I am. I'm a big believer in the phrase attitude, an attitude of gratitude. Um, I'm so grateful for every day. I'm grateful for my health, my family's health. I'm grateful for the life that I have been afforded. I come from uh, a family where we my parents always worked hard. They loved us. We never needed for anything, but we wanted for a lot. And so we always had the basics to survive. First and foremost, love. And so we always felt loved. Um, but there was plenty in life that we wanted for, and strove for, and so I'm just incredibly grateful for the experiences that I've had, and the life that I get to have every day. What I'd also say is this element of, I'd heard people talk about servant leadership, and servant leadership to me, like it
That's
doesn't
another
always
thing.
feel. I'm sorry.
That's another thing, isn't it?
It really is, right? And the
Yeah.
idea of servant leadership, like it didn't. I hear people talk about it, and it really didn't feel all that genuine. And then through my experiences and really seeing servant leadership in action, servant leadership to me is literally serving the people that you lead, right? It's putting your people first. It's
Mm.
serving them, helping them be successful so that they can lead, right? And I this is a practice and a philosophy that I carry with me, and I try hard to lead in that way every day. There are some days when I do it better than
Mm.
other days. There are some days when um, leadership is dynamic, right?
Mm.
Leadership, there are times and circumstances where certain kinds of leadership are necessary, and then there's sort of the day to day leadership, and I think it's important to be a dynamic leader, and being able to adjust to the moments that the kind of leadership that it calls for in that particular moment are necessary. But those underlying elements, those fundamentals of leadership and serving others, putting them first. And when you do that, you enable the organization, you enable your talent, and now you have the power of the collective rather than the individual. And that's when truly great things can be accomplished.
Absolutely. And then that's really when you grow as a leader also, when you get the power of your teams or division or whatever you may have. And I presume you have employees internationally also, or is it mainly in the US?
My team is primarily in the US, but I serve on our global leadership team, where we have the opportunity to work with talent all over the globe. And then I lead some respective work streams within our worldwide government affairs and policy function that allows me to work very closely with colleagues all over the world, which again is a
Okay.
tremendous opportunity and a privilege to work with some of the most talented, brightest colleagues in the profession here at Johnson and Johnson.
And that is so when we have these sometimes very diverse teams, which we need in order maybe to solve problems and drive the business forward and so on. So, have you had any challenging situation during your growth as a leader where you put yourself in difficult situations. It could have been a cultural impact or anything like that, which and then where you look back, well, today I might have done it differently because that's what I learned out of that.
Well, what I would say, just generally speaking, is I'm always learning.
Okay.
I'm always learning. I'm always assessing. What can I do differently? What can I do better? How can I be more efficient? How can I help enable our organization and our talent's success? So, I'm always assessing and evaluating that. I mean, what I would say is that, earlier in my career, I was probably a bit more of a manager where I, was really involved in sort of the day to day of individual operations. But as you grow as a leader, and again, you look at ways that you can empower your team, and you see when you empower your team how much more you are able to accomplish. And at the end of the day, you're responsible for the organization, you're responsible for the function, not just one individual component of it, right? So when you can broaden your perspective, you work with the individuals on your team to, again, identify the goals and objectives that are relevant to their individual responsibilities. You help outfit them with the resources that they need. And then you support them in their execution. And in some instances, that support means get out of their way, right? Remove the barriers and let them go and run. And in other instances, it's about regular feedback and making those micro adjustments. And in other instances, it might very well be having to readjust your goals and think about different objectives, right? So I would say it's always learning. I'm always assessing. Some days I'm better at it than others. Right?
Yeah. So before we go into some rapid questions here, how do you work with feedback to people on a daily basis or regular basis or whatever? Because I feel this is an extremely important component in actually getting the results, but also getting people to grow and so on. So, what is your thinking around that, and how does it work? How does it play in your head? Do that.
I think again, leadership is dynamic, right? And I think and there's also a distinction between leadership and management, right? And so management is, I like the idea, and I try to deploy management from a feedback perspective of regular feedback, consistent feedback, right? You don't ever want your talent to be surprised. They shouldn't, you think about like mid-year reviews and year-end performance reviews. People should not be hearing something for the first time in their mid-year review or during their year-end performance evaluation, right? This should be a conversation that you're having with your talent throughout the course of the year, whether that's in your regular one-on-ones, whether that's in your leadership team meetings, whether that's in your regular updates on progress reports for projects, right? That regular feedback is so important, right? Because it allows for people to get greater fidelity in their performance. How, right? It's easier for you to sort of dial up one or two versus have to dial up, 8 or 9, and that have to make those jumps and leaps through the process, right? Rather than taking just some small steps along the way, right? So getting that fidelity, right? Those micro adjustments, I believe it's a much more effective way to get favorable results, right? Than looking for those big changes in behavior, right?
And that's how a true leader actually talks and reasons, because this is part of your daily work. It's now a backbone in your way of working. I can hear that. Thank you so much for that. And some rapid questions here. Are you ready? So, what's the best book you have read recently?
The best book that I've read recently, I would say it's Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Right. Favorite way to unwind?
A run.
A leadership quality you admire most?
Listening.
Artificial intelligence, friend or foe?
Friend.
Dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
This is a question I should have an answer to because it gets asked, right?
You think about that.
I'm.
It could be someone today also.
Yeah, I'm going to say Barack Obama.
Right. That would be a magnificent story. And there's so much happening in the US right now. So
there is. Yeah, and he just had a significant impact me when in 2008 when he was running for president, and it was a time when our country really needed a leader like him, and so he's modern day, but he was just such a critical leader for the moment in time, and he still is just I think an incredible leader, and so I would love to have a dinner with him if ever afforded the opportunity.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you here on the Growth Leaders podcast, Chris, and thank you.
It's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed this. Thank you for the great questions, and also allowing me to share my reflections. So appreciate the time today.